Hello.
Hi.
How's it going? We're here at South by Southwest, of course. Thank you for stopping by the ScreenRant suite. And we're here to talk Rock Springs. Oh my God. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. I want to just hear from you, just kind of where the idea came from, what the premise is. I'll be honest, I did not really know the true story behind it. I was a sobbing mess by the end of this movie. It was so great. But just tell me kind of where the idea came from. And
I mean, so truthfully, it was honestly a fully formed question that dropped in my head one day, where the question that popped in was, can I explore diaspora through horror? Which is like a very abstract question. So I had to unpack what that meant. And I'm a child of immigrants, so diaspora for me is obviously very personal. And I wanted to explore the kind of emotions and of the lived experience of being part of diaspora. So that's a little bit of loneliness, a little bit of longing for like a sense of home and a sense of belonging, and a little bit haunted at times, right? By not feeling that you're in one place in one time, but you're pulled in a bunch of different places and through a bunch of different timelines. And that there's something in that fragmentation that can create a sense of grief sometimes, right? So I knew that that's part of what I wanted to explore. So that's obviously a ghost story. That's the subgenre of horror that is obviously preoccupied with grief and being haunted. So once I had that, I just was sort of off to the races. And I also knew that I wanted it to be a present day story that intersected with some untold history of the early Chinese communities in America. So I went into a research hole to figure out what that history was. And when I came across the Rock Springs Massacre, I was floored because I'd never heard of it either. And once I learned about that and was doing the research, it kind of all clicked into place. Yeah.
It is wild. Like, and it's when I also went into a research hole after I watched the movie, and it is like that. Like, they didn't even put a monument up for until recently. Like, people really don't know about it.
Actually, this past year, 2025.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really makes you think, doesn't it?
It sure does. Also, you just made me realize I've been saying diaspora wrong my entire life. I kept saying diaspora.
I think
I know. I think you're correct.
It's tomato.
I think you're correct.
I think tomato, potato. Like, I don't know. Like, you might be right.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. The way you said it was much more like elegant than how I was saying it. Okay, so tell me how you two got involved together and what was unique about that collaboration.
Do you want to tell this story?
No, you tell the story.
Okay, we met 8 years ago at Bricks and Scones. And it wasn't about anything particular. We were just sort of talking about our experiences and what we were interested in. And then, it took 8 years for Rock Springs to kind of come together the way that it did. But I think that I had read it. How many years did it take after I'd read it?
Probably at least 3.
Yeah.
After you read it, at least 3 years before we had the financing together to go shoot.
Yeah. And
I think
all that to say, it is a miracle any film gets made ever. And I knew on the initial read that this was something I absolutely had to be a part of. I think that Vera is such an innovative thinker and human being, and that absolutely came out of the page, and now seeing it in like feature form has been so moving to me. But I just think that she has this way of thinking and of addressing these themes that I think have been addressed before in film, in different forms of art, but coming at it from an empathetic standpoint, which I think is so different than what we've seen before. I don't want to give too much away about the film. But yeah, I found myself after I did my initial self-hate watch, because I always do that, where I do a first watch of anything I'm in where I'm like, oh, I just let myself hate myself. And then on the second watch, when I'm with everyone else, I was so moved by, just the way that she was able to address this historical event and all of the horrible things that happened, but also reframing it from the perspective of those who experienced it, and how it's affecting future generations or the generation in the present timeline. Just a big fan overall of everything that Vera has brought to this piece, and just knowing how personal it is. And I could keep. Should I keep
Actually, yes.
Saying positive things about Vera.
Actually, yes. And just the way you kind of you interweave these two timelines. Just tell me a little bit about that, and just I mean, you have an amazing cast in one timeline, amazing cast in the other timeline. So just talk a little bit about the interwovenness of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the structure is probably one of the least conventional parts of the film. And, you know, I didn't set out to create an unconventionally structured film. It was because I really, really, really wanted to, felt incredibly important to me, kind of like a deal breaker, right? That I did not want to talk about the 1885 Rock Springs Massacre only from the perspective of victimization. I did not want to, I wanted to humanize those characters. I wanted you to get to know them first. Mm-hmm. I also wanted you to not think about them only in terms of what happened to them. And to do that, they actually had to be the leads of their own story. And it made a lot of sense, right? Because to bring them to life is how I could sort of, in the structure of the film, say that history is not past is present. And even if the present day storyline that Kelly leads so amazingly may not even be consciously aware, that history is in the land, it's in the air around them, and therefore it can cut in at any moment.
Right.
And part of the sort of going back to why this notion of diaspora is you don't feel like when you're a child of immigrants, right? Like I speak multiple languages, but not well, and I try to construct a sense of my lineage and where I'm from, meaning where my family's from, but my parents won't tell me those details. So there's kind of a fragmentation and a brokenness to my timeline. I don't get to give myself a beginning, middle, and end. And I think that's a relatively common thing for people who are part of diaspora and their families and their lineages have split, into different places across different times. And the structure of the film is meant to represent that, right? That even in the present day, Emily, Kelly's character, and her family are going through this grieving process where they're coming through this huge loss, and the family is split apart in so many different ways. It literally can't communicate with each other. And they move to this new place, and there's something in the new place that is also going to split them apart even more. And in the reconciliation of all of that fragmentation and learning that history is where we can see some level of healing, both for individuals, for the family unit, but also maybe on a larger collective level. If I'm answering your question as clearly as possible, I hope so.
No, you are, for sure.
That is the structure of it, right? Like that past is present and is our future if we don't acknowledge it. And we don't get to the sort of comfort of saying it's back there and then I'm here and then there's forward. They kind of collapse on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly, what was appealing to you about that? Like because there also is like you're right, there is the horror element, but she is dealing with a lot with her family and loss, and just talk to me a little bit about that.
I think the thing that interested me the most, and also just going off of what Vera just said, was this idea that past and present, everything is so blurry. And also something that I hope to prove to be true in my work, but also in my life, is this idea that like, even if during this present timeline where we all are right now, if we cannot see healing, that maybe if I were able to zoom out and look at 3 generations of my family, hopefully over that time, there is some sort of trajectory like towards healing. And I think that's the thing that excited me the most about Rock Springs, was that here was this woman who was completely unaware of these events that were taking place and then is viscerally in the middle of being affected. And then hopefully by the end, again, not to give too much away, but I do believe that there is a moment of seeing and acknowledging the pain that these other folks felt, that she maybe felt in ways even though she didn't even understand where it was coming from. And then being able to look at that and look at herself and see the ways that she has also, unfortunately, become part of this like cycle of repeating this pain, and how can she move away from that. And so yeah, that idea of healing over generations of time in little ways, I think is sometimes the thing that gives me hope to move on in my life when it feels really dark. And I think that Vera has done that beautifully.
And so much of like life is disruptive, right? Even you saying, I didn't know about this massacre, so I went on a research hole. You didn't know, and then it's disruptive to learn this really violent episode, and then disruptive to learn, I wasn't taught this, and I didn't know this. And then you stop and you do a little research, right? That's a tiny bit of disruption. And that's also death. Right? Yeah. Death is disruptive in life, at least how we experience it, because we're afraid of it. And in the family story, present day, the husband dying is disruptive. It breaks the family apart. It breaks that timeline. Yeah. So we meet them, they've already been disrupted. And part of the structure of the story is to mimic that. The disruption of death, the disruption that comes from knowledge that we were denied, how that sort of cuts across what we think our path is. And my hope is that by the end, our characters and our audience understand that even when your journey, your narrative is disrupted, sometimes violently, there can still be a resolution of some kind. It's sort of the idea, right? Yeah. So that plays out in the family and what they're going through and the grief, and it plays out through acknowledging history after the disruption of learning about it. Yeah.
Because I do think I love the way you tell this too, because again, like you mentioned, it's the Wikipedia article is short. Like people really
short and brutal.
Really short, really brutal. Like people don't know about it. So people are going to learn about this through this. And I find that so interesting. And because anybody could have made a movie where they just do the massacre, but you told this in such like a beautiful, like poignant way that like it really stuck with me afterwards. And I really thought it was very beautiful.
And also for me, it's like I made a really intentional choice, because when you do the research, that society was almost all men, right? It's 3 years after the Chinese Exclusion Act. So no women were allowed to come. So those men, the men that formed the majority of the early Chinese communities in America, they were either bachelors or they left their families behind to come, right? Now you notice present day storylines, all women.
Right.
And so there's a way in which, while they're obviously on two different timelines and they don't know each other, part of what I'm trying to do is give a little bit of that yin and yang, for lack of a better way of saying it. Some way in which their stories can mirror each other across these different timelines. Yeah.
And I don't want to give anything away, but just even like the end, you like very much honor them, and it's just it got me. Really, really great. Kelly, I want to ask you. So we met.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
I'm so happy to see you.
We were both like kind of getting cooking when we met.
Yeah. How many years ago now was that?
It was
like 10?
Yeah, because I remember you came, I was working at a different outlet, and you came into the studio where you were, The Last Jedi was about to come out.
I'm going to cry. Young me.
Yeah, I remember you were wearing a blue dress.
Yeah.
And you had like a braid.
Oh my God, yeah. I think that might have been like my first event, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first like Hollywood event I'd ever been to. Yes.
Yeah, you looked stunning. Oh my gosh.
How full circle.
It's very full circle.
Oh my God.
Because it would be a decade, yeah?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we met during that. That was, and then you did like Raya, amazing animated movies. You've done horror, and I think the choices you've made have been so great and interesting. And I'm just curious, like, how you go about choosing what you want to do and what you like. Just kind of what is your era right now?
What's your era? First of all,
in your amazing Depop outfit.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, my era is secondhand shopping. Thank you for acknowledging that. That means a lot to me. It's been a wild 10 years. I still, when I think back about that time, I'm like, I'm still so honored and grateful to be here, and recognizing that like it is truly impossible to get any sort of film made, period, but also impossible to be in the percentage of folks that are working actors that have the ability to even consider, should I or should I not take this? Like that is, let me just acknowledge that is a miracle and an impossibility that I am grateful for every day. On top of that, what you were saying about how I choose projects, on a hopeful note, I think when I first started, and Jedi was like my first film.
It's crazy.
Like,
It
I
was-
literally have like a Star Wars tattoo.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I am
Not a bad first.
not a
indie
bad
there.
first time. And just to say, like, I had the most amazing time. Like, I think that it was a gift to be working with Ryan Johnson, who is the most angelic of all human beings, who really mentored me through that space. And then afterwards, like you said, I had this like ability to do Raya, and I did like all, and then now I'm in this place where I just am such a lover of independent film. And I have seen over time, like, I know that, you know, we have all these sort of representation conversations and conversations about how slow the industry moves in terms of giving people the ability to make a film if they are not from a very specific demographic of folks who, you know, have historically always been given the microphone. I will say over the last few years, I've had the pleasure and honor to work with so many incredible Asian writer-directors, queer writer-directors, and be on these sets where it is changing my brain chemistry. Like, watching Vera direct this film changed my brain chemistry. Watching Haejin Jun, our DP, create like these like incredible visuals and them teaming up together changed my perception of what I was capable of doing. And, you know, I think that when we have these sort of far away representation conversations, it's important to see yes, but like when you're actually doing it and like seeing someone like you do something so impossible so well, I just hope that every single person gets to experience what I have been so lucky to experience. And I think I'm just following that. Whatever that means, I just want to keep making authentic films with folks who care about what they're doing and who have very specific ideas about addressing things in personal ways, even if that is in, like you said, an unconventional way. You know, I think that when we are in studio world, sometimes it's a lot harder to be able to come at a story from a different perspective in a way that's not, you know, just like save the cat, 3-act structure, you know. There's nothing wrong with that.
Always save the cat.
Always save the cat. Bring it up. Bring up Save the Cat. They love Save the Cat.
No, not the book, but always save the cat.
Yeah,
no matter
always
what.
save the cat too. Yes.
All cats all the
yes,
time.
yes. But it's been, I don't know, dude. It's wonderful to see you here. And like I said this earlier today, but like I've also had some, you know, hard experiences, and being able to sit here today and say that I'm making art with folks and celebrating the parts of myself that I think I was taught to hate, that I was taught to be ashamed of, has been the most healing, beautiful experience of my life. And I just want to keep doing that. I'm so good to see you.
My babe.
Truly. I love you.
I love you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. This is beautiful. This is great. And I cannot wait to see what's next for both of you. And
Same.
thank you. Whoa, I'm losing my shoe here. Thank you so much.
It happens.
Thank you.